Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Bobby, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Joe LaRue,
Here.
Chair Butch Schleier,
Here.
Commissioner Neil Younger.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. There's no changes to the order of business tonight, and we will have 2 executive sessions later on. Prior minutes, Commissioners, did you get a chance to review prior minutes?
Everything looks good.
Okay, minutes stand as submitted. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make them up. Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda, items A through G.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Are there any issues from persons not on the order of business? Okay, I don't see any hands going up. New employees and promotions.
Good evening. I am Jennifer Taylor, and I am the Human Resources Coordinator. I think this is my first time meeting some of you, but hello to those of you that I have met. Unfortunately, our new hires were unable to come tonight, but I did want to announce them. We are excited to have 2 new hires within the last month. We do have Justin Baskell, who's a full-time weed control technician, and he fills all of the vacancies out at the noxious weed department. And we have Laura Jensen, who is a full-time legal assistant, and that also fills all of our vacancies in the attorney's department.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is the 240th Avenue Cemetery. Glenn Schmeidler.
We also have some other property owners, Stan and Karen Allen, and Daryl and Kathy Schmeidler are here also. It's been brought to our attention that the property directly across from our residence at 1011 240th Avenue, which has been our home for 30 years, is going to be plotted out for a cemetery. One would think that anyone who builds a house in the country would be protected from uses and obviously could damage land and property values, but this shows that we are not protected. And that's why we're coming to you with a fair solution, amendment of the zoning resolution to require a special use permit exemption for putting a new cemetery within a half mile of an established residence. The proposed use is not a private cemetery, which is one for family only. It's a public cemetery, even though it appears to be for Catholics only. It seems sensible that before anyone constructs a cemetery this close to people living in a residence, doesn't endanger private water wells, create traffic hazards, as the blacktop road is heavily traveled by cars and pickups and weighted trucks, as well as damaging property values. As also stated in the Stymel law, that the cemetery next door can radically reduce the property value to property since people do not want to live next to a cemetery. If the cemetery would be located in the city to the west of the present cemetery, the land is already zoned properly, but it appears that the piece of land has been on the market for quite some time now. Obviously, it's not safely as it pertains to residences. The church had a free piece of ground that would not have adversely affected anyone, the Steno ground, just 1 mile west of our home, and already had thousands of dollars of concrete parking lot established. Also, the land next to the existing cemetery in Hayes that is owned by the church has also proven the adverse effect of land value as the market price has been drastically reduced. I believe the land was listed November of 2017 for 1.1 million, then reduced in 18 to 900,000, then again reduced in 2019 to 700,000, and the current listing price is 550,000 that was established March 21st. With this type of zoning leniency, any land could be developed into a cemetery next to or across from any residence or group of residences in the county, such as Stonewood Estates, Prairie Acres, and even developments north and northeast of Hayes. If the county would amend its zoning and land use regulations to require a special use permit or exception for construction of a public cemetery within a half a mile of a residence or city limits with reasonable standards such are used for other special uses and exceptions, it would give us and other residence owners at least a chance to be heard before a cemetery be located that close to our property that has been well established and improved in good faith. In the past 100 years, the church has never put a cemetery in somebody's front yard, and nobody's ever decided to build in front of one or next to one. Just put the shoe on the other foot, treat me the way you would want to be treated. Let's do the right thing. We aren't asking for any special treatment, just a level playing field. We are asking the county officials to consider implementing a half-mile setback from any existing residences to protect all of us in Ellis County. So I just want your feedback on it, what your thoughts are.
Well, first of all, Glenn, what are, you make some general statements here, but I know you're concerned about potential water issues.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
You're concerned about potential water issues? Is that correct?
It could cause water issues.
It could, but doesn't KDHE provide input into that process as what water could or could not be used for?
I don't know if they do or not.
I believe they do.
Yeah, I would think so.
I don't know why it wouldn't be safe when you talk about the blacktop with the traffic and the trucks. I already see funeral processions go down Vine Street with an abundance of traffic. Doesn't seem to be an issue. The county does maintain the blacktop, so that's not an issue either. Yeah, Mr. Hazelhorse?
Commissioners, Mr. Jeter, County Administrator Dean Hazelhorst. In reference to the heavy use that Glenn is talking about on trucks, I'm out there on his property quite often. APAC uses that daily. Hess Services has semis up and down it daily, not counting the oil field trucks, tankers, etc. He also runs, he doesn't, but his son runs an oil field business out of that location also. And I can attest to you from my experience out there, there's a lot of heavy use trucks go up and down that road daily. And if that does get constructed there, the main entrance is across from his house. And there's a funeral procession with 100 cars in it, and that happens pretty often in Ellis County with the German Catholics. I think he'd be a great hazard out there. I would not want to see that. I farm Mr. Schmeidler's ground, and I would not want to see it located there either for the main entrance. If it was moved further east on a sand road, which it's going to be 3/8 of a mile of a sand road coming off of 183 highway, it'd be much better access over there and off of the main highway there. That would be my concern also, especially with the heavy use trucks. I don't know how many trucks a day go by there, and I'm sure the Public Works Department could figure that out, but there's, I'm going to say 100 plus, wouldn't you, Glenn?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure traffic could be controlled
So that,
for the brief period of time.
there is a lot of traffic on that road. That would be a number one concern, especially with the funeral procession.
I believe
Concerned about that.
the parishioners wanted it to be on the blacktop because they don't want the hazards of driving on a sand road, especially in foul weather. So that was a concern there too.
But 3/8 of a mile of sand road, if that's what they have to drive, as we all know. Walker Avenue was improved with crushed rock, and so was Reservation Road, which was done with, when I was here. that's a very all-weather road, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If that would be improved for that 3/8 of a mile, it'd be safer for the whole entire general public. And that would be my concern also, is just the safety of that issue out there. 3/8 of a mile of sand road. If you go to the Vincent Cemetery, leaving Victoria, you're gonna drive, I think it's 6 miles, 5 miles to that cemetery. I mean, basically every cemetery in Ellis County is located on a sand road, even the one at Ellis is, other than the one here in Hayes, of course.
I don't think St. Mary's Cemetery in Ellis is on a sand road. That's on the blacktop road.
It's on a blacktop.
And it is right adjacent to a home, too. So I don't know which came first, the cemetery or the home, but someone built next to the other one there.
You know, the
But
Vic-
here in Hayes, I mean, the cemetery was here before the houses were ever built, and they chose to build around that,
Absolutely.
you know, and that's their choice. It's obvious the church has had that property for sale for a very long time, and nobody's bought it up yet to develop it, and there's probably a reason why. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. When you talk about a half-mile setback, I think that's a ridiculous number. Absolutely ridiculous. If you have a residence on both sides of a mile section, that means nothing could go in there. That's just ridiculous. So I wouldn't even consider that.
What about would you consider?
Is Justin here?
Yeah. Yeah.
He knows a lot about our comprehensive plan, right? Justin, come on up here a minute.
Justin Craig, Environmental Services Director.
Justin, what's the standard setback for a home in Ellis County,
A home
out in the county?
in the country would just have to be 30 foot off the front, 10 feet off the back, 10 feet off the sides of the property lines.
And that's what I would consider for a cemetery, too.
Right, for any building
Yeah.
that they put up, it would have to be that.
Okay? The church did not violate anything in our comprehensive plan by starting development on this
No.
cemetery.
No, it's zoned as transitional ag, so it is a permitted use. No violations to report.
Okay. I know the church has already invested money in this parcel of ground with some survey and architectural costs. I don't know how far they are really from completion. So, let's see. Ann, could you step up here a moment?
Hi,
Hi.
Ann Pfeiffer with St. Joseph's Catholic Church. I'm our business administrator and I manage the cemetery for the church. I just put some information together. So the land at the corner of 240th Avenue and Mount Pleasant, the landowner had donated 30 acres to St. Joseph Parish, which is right off of the blacktop. We did contact planning and zoning and spoke with Justin on June 27th, 2022. Funerals, as you know, happen rain or shine, even in the snow. So being on the blacktop, that makes it easier and safer travel for them in inclement weather. The 230th Avenue property was donated to us as well before we switched anywhere between the two properties. We did talk to both property owners as well as all people involved in that process. The deed to the 230th Avenue has actually been returned through a quitclaim deed to the original owner who donated the property. There was development done there, but the biggest complaint from many of the people when we talked to them about the cemetery was the lack of paved road, blacktop road to the cemetery, which is the main reason why we switched to that 240th Avenue property when that opportunity arose. I know they mentioned the Main Street and 27th Street property. We do own 4.8 acres there. We have looked at developing it, but the cost to develop it to what we could make in lot sales, you would break even or lose money in the process. It would last about 20 years, and then we'd be in the same situation right now as of looking for land for a cemetery. Since it is more, I guess, at the time, prime real estate, the thought process was if we sold, by previous management as well as current management, is if we sell the prime real estate, we can put it in the perpetual care fund, which can then be used to help fund the maintenance of the cemetery forever. Because once we sell all the lots at our current cemetery, there will be no more revenue to come in, but there still will be costs to maintain and keep up the cemetery through mowing cost, edging, etc. If the half-mile setback is adopted, we would no longer be able to use the Main Street and 27th property because it would be within a half a mile of the houses. So I know that there was mention of concern with rural and well water. We are aware that you should not be using rural or well water to water grass. The plan is when the buffalo grass would be planted, we would be having affluent water trucked in to water the grass to establish it. Once the grass is established, we would not need to water the buffalo grass. And there is no plans to add trees just due to the additional maintenance required to maintain them. The cemetery like you guys mentioned, the cemetery did come first, and then the houses grew around it. Other cemeteries that do not have a half a mile in between them and another house is Fort Hays Memorial Garden Cemetery actually has a house right across from the entrance of the cemetery, and I know that was a more recent cemetery built. I'm not sure which one came first. Victoria has a house right next to the cemetery as well. Not sure which one came first, but I personally don't know a cemetery that doesn't have a house within a half a mile, but maybe there is one, maybe there isn't. In talking with Justin Craig, the Environmental Services Director, the cemetery would be permitted at 240th Avenue. Like he mentioned, it is transitional ag, and you can have cemetery development in a transitional ag area. We've already paid for the deed, the land survey, and architect's fees for the 240th Avenue. We have also committed to paying for the civil engineer plan, which would then have to be filed with the state as a notice of intent for the dirt work to be completed. And that civil engineer plan is currently being completed as we speak, I guess. And then the one thing I would ask is if you do decide to do a half mile setback, that we ask that our two properties at the 240th Avenue as well as the 24th or 27th Street and Main properties be grandfathered in to be developed as cemeteries, since the development of the 240th Avenue has already started and there is cost involved in that. And the 24th and or 27th, sorry, I don't know why I keep saying 24th, 27th and Main property, just in case, that would need to be developed in the future.
Well, I believe if a half-mile setback was implemented by the county, that wouldn't affect anything inside the city.
Well, I just didn't know if it did or didn't, but I didn't know if it was like where you have your state rules and then you have your federal rules and you can have less rules, but not, if there's a greater rule that you have to follow whichever one.
Okay, Commissioner Neal, do you have any questions for Ann or Glenn?
As far as the traffic, there's already traffic out on that road, pretty heavy. I believe your son has a practice building there, so the traffic is there all the time, and I see that. KDHE, you do have to have them come in before you can put a water well down. They'll have to, okay that. Half-mile setback, I'm not for that. I won't support that. That's way too far back. 30 foot, like Commissioner Butch said, yeah, I'm sure he could work with St. Joe's and they would maybe go back a little bit further. And when there is a funeral procession, most of the time Hayes PD will escort it out of the city, and then our sheriff's department will take that over. And I guess I'm just thinking if we do a half-mile setback like that, they will probably look at selling that property, and then who knows what you're going to get across the road. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I realize they're escorted out, but when they leave, that's when it's going to be more dangerous because there's not going to be anybody out there. And the little hill to the south of there is very dangerous, even though we're up on a hill there. But once in a while, a guy either misses a vehicle or something, and they're down in there, and boy, they're right up on you real quick. Would you at least consider a quarter mile
No,
setback?
I wouldn't.
That's still too far back.
I would consider what's in the comprehensive plan for a home. That's what I would consider.
Well, I think I can speak for about everybody here. I don't think anybody would want a cemetery in their front yard, and that's where we're coming from.
Well, I personally wouldn't have a problem living adjacent to a cemetery. I do know throughout the county and in many of our unincorporated cities, we have a lot of junk piles laying around, a whole lot of junk piles. And I wouldn't want to live next to one of them. I'd much rather prefer a cemetery. That's my thoughts.
As in
Commissioner
there-
Joe, do you have any questions?
No questions, but you did ask our thoughts, so I'll give you that feedback, Glenn. I'll start off with, at the very beginning of all this, there's somebody who owned the property, chose to donate the property, and I'm very much in favor of property owners being able to control what their property is used for, within code, ordinance, law, and whatnot. The church did follow all the legal steps that they needed to up to this point. So even if we did approve some sort of a setback, presuming we had the authority to do so, I would grandfather them in. But as far as a half mile, even a quarter mile, that's quite excessive, and there's already a provision for a setback in the comprehensive plan. I live in Victoria, and they just built a very nice commercial property north of the cemetery, and they just built a beautiful house to the south and to the west of the cemetery, so people do build around them, and not that it minimizes your concerns or the concerns of the folks you brought with you, because I appreciate your perspective, but heck, I grew up in a house that was right across the street from a cemetery. So I never thought that it hurt our property value. In fact, they're due to deaths in the family, they're selling it, and they're in the process of selling it, and it's got a good value, so it held and appreciated in value. So I think people do build around churches and cemeteries and vice versa, and I think if you were to do a half mile or even a quarter mile, with so many cemeteries being already out there in small communities, heck, some of those communities, if you didn't have a house within a half mile, the only thing in that small town would be the cemetery. So while I appreciate and understand your concerns, I don't think it would be right to stop what they're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Glenn. Thank you. Ann, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, our next agenda item is the Victoria Community Coalition Project. Jeff?
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. It's been a wild 12 months since we started this endeavor of trying to save this building. I'm here as the chairman of the Victoria Community Coalition. It is a nonprofit corporation that's established in Kansas. We've also got a few other members. Marilyn Brown is with me tonight. Amanda Rupp, who is with the Ellis County Historical Society, is here. And I've also been working with Dave Williams and Doug Williams and David Klingen with the Grow Hayes. They've been kind of mentoring me through this process. And I want to apologize right up front for the poor timing with regards to asking for money when you're so far along with your budget. But we did want to get far enough along to where we could address some of the concerns that you had when I was here in May, including the fact that we have applied for a 501c3. We did that on June 8th, I think. Technically, they have 6 months to review it, so that'd be December. But we have also written a request to try to get it done sooner. We check on it monthly, and they are still working on it. And in the meantime, we have set up a provisional fund with the Heartland Community Foundation here in Hayes that allows us to accept money. So another item that we discussed last May was fundraising efforts, and this gave us time to get through Herzog Fest in Victoria. We were able to fundraise during that event, and in the last few months as well, and since May, since I was here, we've been able to do about almost $30,000. That is including a $14,000 grant from the Kansas State Brownfields program. They did an assessment of the building. They're currently working on an estimate for the abatement of asbestos and that effort's going to cost about $3,000 or $4,000. All this is grant money. We've received some grant money from Heartland Foundation, and then we've raised $6,000 or $8,000 during the Herzog Fest. So hopefully we're checking some of these boxes, and we're pretty excited about what we're proposing. The building has been sitting empty for 11 years now, and the roof's deteriorating. But we've come up with a plan that we think is good for not only Victoria but the county. We're proposing 20 apartments, childcare space for between 20 and 25 kids. We are proposing in the middle some community space, could be exercise room, could be a senior center. We haven't figured that piece out yet. And the biggest thing, this is huge in terms of what we've been able to accomplish just during the summer, is we're in the final stages of signing a lease agreement with the Ellis County Historical Society for a satellite campus. And that is huge, to be able to bring some of their exhibits that they can't display right now down to Victoria, be able to expand into the Volga German heritage, expand into the Basilica memorabilia and artifacts that we've got from the church. So they're going to lease 9,000 square feet. And what that has done is freed us in our lease agreement. They're going to provide the funding to do that. So that's taken 25% of that building off of our lap, so to speak, to find the money to put on the new roof, to put in the HVAC, to modify it. So now we're only, instead of 40,000 square feet, we're looking at 30,000. But we still need help. So that's why we're here tonight. We do have a contract with an architect that we put out requests for proposals last May, and we selected an architect, and he started doing some initial layout of the rooms just to make sure that what we heard from the community we can actually put in the building. And he has okayed that in terms of the code, the zoning. So in terms of the interaction and the fire egress, we think, according to him, it's feasible. He has just started doing some cost estimating, so we've got some of those numbers. And we are talking to millions of dollars. We are hoping to apply for a moderate income housing grant through Kansas. We're looking into the CDBG grant in January through Kansas. And we're going to be seeking funds from the Hansen Foundation, as well as doing some more private fundraising. But specifically, the $10,000 that we're asking for the county here is to help us get through with the architect fees and engineering design. We feel like that's the biggest bang for the buck in terms of a return on capital from the county. We think we can take that money within the next 6 or 8 months and multiply it immensely if we can get some of these grants and get some construction going. This summer, our group, which we've got 5 board members, everybody is volunteer, there's nobody on salary. We We spent most of the summer doing a survey throughout town for what's called the HAT, the Housing Assessment Tool. And that's what's needed in order to go for some of these housing grants, such as the MIH as well as the CDBG. I know, Neil, you mentioned last time about maybe a space for some kind of a boarding facility for pets. We still have a half acre on the north side that we are looking at for anything as soon as we can get this building secure. Put a roof on it, get it in the dry, and get some action going on the construction of it. We do have Northwest Kansas Planning and Development Commission helping us, so they're going to help write the MIH grant for us, and they're also giving us guidance on this HAT, the housing assessment. Have you got any questions, or did I miss anything?
I got some questions, Jim. You can put your board down.
All right.
First of all, let me say, as far as the concept with what you want to do there, I'm in favor of that. I think it's a great project.
Thank you.
It'd be good for Ellis County. When you ask for $10,000, looking through the information I have here in front of me, it said it'll be used for architect fees. Then again, it says here that architect fees are 7%, be approximately 7% of the construction costs, which is projected to be $2 to $3 million. So we're talking about $200,000 in architect fees.
Yes.
How much money do you have in your pocket right now to go forward?
Well, I just told you the fundraising we've done right now. That's
Okay.
why I think by the time we get to January, where this money's available from the county, we'll be that much further along. I mean, this is what we've done just since I've been here in May.
Well,
I mean, 3 months. And
a couple
another
of-
3 months, we'll be further along, and hopefully we can just keep growing.
You use a couple of words here in what I have in front of me, in that this money will be used as a springboard in securing other funds. And later on down here, it says here the $10,000 investment will multiply to millions. And when I read that, what that's telling me, this is very early in the process. If you needed $10,000 to tie up the architect fees or something else in the building, I would say, fine, let's do it. But what you want to use the county's money for is a hope. You're hoping, says right here, you're hoping that it's going to generate more money. Well, get that other money first, and then see if we can help you. And that's where I'm at. I think the county's money should come in more on the back end of this, not on the front end, because it's too much speculation for me.
Okay.
I just can't look at that. It's speculation. You're hoping to get this completed. You're hoping to get grants. That might well all fall into place, but until it does, I'm just not going to be on board with funding this.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and that's a good point. But at some point, we've got to start somewhere. I mean,
Sure.
this is it's an eyesore for the community, just sitting empty. We've got a lot of people involved. We have done some fundraising, and we will continue that effort. Some of the grants that we're hoping to get, and again, I'm using the word hope because that's what I run on every day. This is all volunteer, and we're spending a lot of time, but this is what we're running with. We're running with hope. And we thought this would be a good place to partner and help with that. Some of the grants, the MAH grant has up to $650,000. The CDBG grant has about the same, depending on how much site work versus building work. And there's also the tax credit grant that we could use for daycare. So yes, we're hoping to raise in the $1 to $2 million. And wouldn't that be pretty exciting to know that you put $10,000 towards this to come back with $2 million?
I'm not opposed to putting in $10,000, but I'm not going to tell a taxpayer, we hope it'll work out.
Okay.
I can't do that.
Well, even to get it started, we have been able to secure, with Ellis County Historical Society. So that's already starting the motion. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good start. Commissioner Joe, do you got any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I do. I hope you don't mind me taking a moment. We talked earlier and last month, and as somebody who lives right around the corner. I'd love to see this work out. You know, we've got a lot of good things happening in Victoria with Cathedral Avenue coming together, the recent completion of the new water tower, the new subdivision, the bakery expanding their hours. So to see that momentum move forward would be wonderful. And I understand that while the architecture fees are going to be roughly 7% of cost, it says you're budgeting future fees to be that, and that currently you have a $12,000 cost that you're wanting the $10,000 to go towards, so you have a specific need identified. But I guess my question, and it more, if you could come on up too, I know this is your first time appearing before us. No, I'm teasing. If I could ask, and I don't mean to butt in, and you can throw paper clips at me or whatever, this may not be my place to ask, but in the information you sent, Jeff, you're saying this is going to be a $2 to $3 million project. Earlier this evening, you said you were excited that the Historical Society was going to sign a lease. I heard earlier that perhaps that would be done this month with you guys potentially moving some things in. So it begs a few questions from me that may not even be my place to ask, and that is, materially, is the building safe and sound for people to start renting space there? And if so, does that mean it's not in the state of disrepair that perhaps we thought it was at one time, which would be good news? But the other thing is, as you mentioned, that as part of the lease, if I understood you right, that the Historical Society is going to take on costs associated with the renovation of the building, kind of a prorated, if they're renting 20% of the square footage, they're going to take care of 20%? Is that, did I understand correctly?
Yes. So just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, because Jeff uses this word hope, and he doesn't give himself enough credit. I think this is in the process and not a dream. It's coming to fruition, and
sure, that's
the
actually,
down payment basically needs to be made.
Yeah.
Is really the
actually, just if you could clarify that question in regards
So,
to the lease.
The Historical
And-
Society will be signing a lease to take care of that 9,000 square foot, and that will be our.
And that's roughly 20% of the building, right?
2025, yes.
Okay, so let's go on the low side to be conservative, and we'll go in the middle. You estimated 2 to 3 mil, so we'll go 2.5 mil and we'll go 20%. That's a $500,000 commitment from the Historical Society.
Right.
And that seemed like a big number, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't misunderstand that.
And I am here with the biggest smile on my face, because our private fundraising efforts have already, we have put that into 2 phases, and primarily with the storage effort of that 2-story structure, has an estimated cost of about $150,000 for repair, for not waiting for the grants to come in for abatement, and we are over halfway there from private fundraising, more than halfway there, and
So you guys are pretty well on the way with phase 1. And I didn't misunderstand, which is great news for the Victoria Community Coalition in regards to being that much further with the project. Is that part of the building structurally sound and safe enough for you to store historical items without them being damaged?
the study that I can't remember.
We had a couple of structural engineers look at the building, and everything is fine. There's some
Okay.
surface rust that is not impact anything.
What about the mold and other water damage from the roof being compromised?
The 2-story structure that stands alone, we are signing a contract to shore up everything, make it dry, and get a company out of Wichita to remove all the asbestos and mold from that 2nd story
Okay.
later this month. So
Okay.
it will be.
That's really the big question I had, was to kind of narrow down current costs versus budgeting future A&E cost, and also just to, again, maybe not my place, but to seek clarification on, are you really taking on 20% of this project's cost? And it sounds like you are, and you've done the math, so.
And it has been well received. We realize that we have a lot to chew on in
Yeah.
2 different locations, but we have a lot of supporters who are willing to put in
Yeah.
projects towards specific
Well,
areas.
and with
so.
Cathedral Avenue being in progress and soon to be completed or soonish, between a better way to get there and the church being there and the Historical Society partnership, on the surface, it looks like a wonderful project. And, like Commissioner Butch said, I'm supportive of the project itself, and, I'm excited to see what comes.
Just one clarification, the space, the 9,000 square foot is really broken in two areas, 3,000 in the second floor, and then 6,000 will be the exhibit space. And that space is the concrete arches that you see from the road, they're not leaking. And then the kitchen space that has a different surface, flat roof, isn't leaking. So they've got 6,000 square feet of the best space in the building, so to speak.
And
So that'll help them.
And you mentioned some grants with Dan Stebbins and Randy Raby, excuse me. What dollar amount are you talking again on those?
That they're helping us apply for?
Yeah.
Well, the MIH is up to $650,000. The CDBG is similar.
Okay. What
Last year, it was like 3 and 2, 3,000 for buildings, 2 for site. This year it's going to be higher. They just haven't announced it. They have a meeting on the 21st of September for that.
Now, typically, those grants, before they're even awarded, require a matching fund contribution. Is that something that the VCC has secured?
We are talking about how to figure that out.
Okay.
So it could be that some of their money could be used for some of the matching because it's all the same building that we're rehabbing. And
Do you know offhand what % of the grant award they require for matching?
well, actually neither. It's not really called a per se match. The MIH just won't fund 100%.
Sure.
So it depends on how many units you have and what your need is. They will then award the money and you have to find the rest.
Okay. Usually, they tell you what % you need to come up with before you apply, though, so that you can know if you can apply. That's why I had wondered if you knew that yet.
We have.
That might be a check back kind of
Yes,
a question.
be happy
so.
to.
All right. Well, I guess I'll shut up now.
Okay, Commissioner Neal, you have questions, concerns?
Yeah. Has the city of Victoria, have they put any funding into this?
They have put in support. They are going to sign off and apply for the MIH grant at the end of the month.
But they have put no funding in at all?
We haven't asked them. We have not asked the city for funding
Why?
because we have, we've been to them probably over 6 or 8 months.
If I could interject real fast, actually, not to correct you, but I'm going to correct you. In a way, you're speaking in error. They've given you $3,500 in the form, if you want to view it that way, in the form of joining the Northwest Business Development
Good point.
Coalition. So,
And-
which opened up the door for them as a member community for you to be able to apply for these grants.
They've also, it's very minimal, but every little support helps, and they've also waived the permit fees for our construction that we're hoping to start this month.
Okay, and then,
They've also waived some other expenses that were tagged to the building from previous owners already that they dissolved already.
okay,
So
I'm going to also throw the city of Hayes in. Have you approached them about anything? Because I see the childcare, I know there'll be people from Hayes going there. Have you guys approached them for any funding?
we have not.
Okay,
One of the things, I do serve on the Ellis County Child Care Task Force, and, we do think that's it's a big need here, and we're excited to try to provide that need, additional space here in this building for Victoria or Ellis County. So we think there's some good sources out there. Like I said, we've just finished some of the plans from the architect to show that it's feasible. We started getting some ideas of what that might cost, so here we are.
okay. The 501c3, are you guys yet or not?
I'm sorry?
The 501,
C3.
C3, are you
It's
guys-
applied for, we haven't received
Okay.
that status, tax exempt status yet.
Part of our delay in applying for some of these grants was the fact that the 501c3 had not been approved by the IRS. We've taken care of that problem through the Heartland Community Foundation with the provisional fund. Even Hanson is talking to us now. because they know we have the provisional fund with them and money can go through them as a nonprofit.
And they're charging you what, 2-3% for that, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. But, so you do now have the means, though, to accept contributions
to apply.
until the IRS returns your approval?
Right.
Okay.
And the request for the $10,000 from Ellis County would definitely help us with our current bill that we have with the architect to get as far as we are, the plan that we've got there. We had to have something to show people that it's feasible, it can be done. And the architect walked the building with all of us. We looked at all the problems, we talked about how it can be taken care of. But we don't have the entire amount of his bill. And that was the reason we were coming to you to request that $10,000.
And to clarify, the bill is 12,000, right?
The
At this
initial bill
time.
for what we have here, and for his review of the building, the water system, the electrical, all of that piece of it, yes, initially is $12,000.
Okay. I just wanted to ask the clarifying question, because there's a lot of information in the packets. I just wanted to make sure I was tracking the right way. Also, apparently I lied when I said I was shutting up.
And as far as phases, which one is going first, or have you split this up?
Well, first is their storage space.
Okay, that's what I was getting to. So they're in the,
It's not
right
actually
there,
shown on here.
right?
There's a second floor over this area.
Correct?
So they're going into that 2,700 square foot to give them elbow room in Hayes, to do great things in Hayes. And then from then, over the next, year or so, they will start working on the display space down here. And in the meantime, this is phase one, is the west and the north side. This is the last phase because it's the oldest part on the east side.
So as far as the electrical, the plumbing, all that, you're going to try to get in there first? Okay, I'm just asking the question about where
All the
that's,
Utilities come
Okay.
in here, other
Okay.
than water, there's 2 sources of water. But there's a basement under this space right here that has the old boilers that we're not going to use anymore. That's still the area where the utilities come in.
okay.
Well, one of the things that you just said that I didn't like hearing was that you already created the expense and now you want someone to cover it. And,
Well-
yeah, I don't like being put in that position at all, not at all.
We've got funds
We've
to
got
cover.
funds to
it.
cover
I mean, we-
Okay, that's good.
And with all due respect, we came to the county because we just thought you really want to be involved in a project like this. We hope it will grow to something that you're proud of, that benefits the entire county. And if we got all of our $600,000 grants, I'm not sure we need 10,000, but at this point, we do. I mean, at this point, and I think maybe this is good use of the funds.
Yeah, with taxpayer dollars to do that. What about all the other merchants that are in Victoria? They'll see this, they're going to come to us now for, hey, I need to upgrade my building.
This is nonprofit. Yeah, we're not a
Right,
profit
right,
agency.
I understand, and they could do the same thing then, so that's kind of what I'm looking at.
And it could, if we can when we successfully do this, it'll save the county, the city money, because in another few years, this building will be in need of demo, and that'll be $1 million.
Commissioners, we can make a motion to approve or not approve this. Another thing I'll bring up, we're talking about $10,000. It doesn't necessarily have to be in our 23 budget. Doesn't have to be. We have contingency money in the 23 budget, and I'm sure it could easily be found if we needed it. So it's not a budgetary thing we're up against necessarily. So what do you guys want to do?
There's other organizations out there that I guess we don't fund that much. They came here to present to us, revisit, which you're revisiting a lot. I'm like you, with the 23 budget. There's always contingency money there, so I'd like to see you guys get on your feet a little bit better, which you probably are
What?
more than what we know, but
Say it again, please.
I would like to see you get on your feet just a little bit more than what you are, but
Well, maybe can put it a contingency that we are on our feet more by January. And
Well-
we'll show you we will be.
What you could do is keep in touch with the Board of Commissioners and show them the steps you're taking. If you get grant approval, bring it forth, show the board, and then perhaps at that time, the board would agree to allow the money. Like I say, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the budget. We don't have to approve this to put it in the budget. So, Commissioner Joe, what do you think?
Well, I'm gonna agree with that and also make the suggestion that you probably have to your left one of the best examples of a community organization that went from, yeah, it is your left, right? What are you looking at her for? No, we're talking about you, man. You guys, the Historical Society went from below zero to being in an amazing financial position. I think the Victoria Community Coalition being affiliated now with the Historical Society is a very great and powerful partnership. I think you guys, if you took a page out of their book as far as updating the county commission and also going to the city commissions within the county, that this project would benefit, to include Hayes, to Neil's point, and got some advice, some pages out of their playbook, I think you'd be shocked how much further you'd be a year from now, because they had such an amazing transformation, the Historical Society did in the last 12 months. And I think it's a very positive thing to note that the last time you appeared before us, it was pretty much, well, that sounds nice, but not right now. You've come with the first time you've come back since then. Now it looks like it's, yeah, we're open to it, just not quite at this moment, but we're a little bit more receptive to it if you can just nail down a couple more things. And I think your organization being a part of helping with the building costs is a very powerful thing for you. And if you could learn from the Historical Society's example as far as the things they've done with fundraising and connecting with the community, it's going to be an amazing difference between today and a year from now. The Historical Society, I want to say you guys have come in, what, monthly? Not to...
This year, every other month.
Yeah, monthly to every other month. We regularly also get emails and individual correspondence from either you or your supporters. So, those are all very useful things that sway commissions and boards and whatnot. So it sounds like you guys are on the right path anyhow. So
I know I was at your first meeting and looking at the development. Was there not talk that the city of Victoria wanted a space in there because they were outgrowing theirs? I don't see anything, or is that in the planning yet?
No, they're not going to go into this space
Okay.
at this time.
Okay.
It's not the location, it's not the place they want to be for their city hall. In terms of in a residential area. They'd rather be on probably like a Main Street or 10th Street or something like that. Probably Main Street.
Okay, Jeff. Well, if you could just keep in touch with the board, your funding might be approved at some point.
Very good. Thank you very much, and you're in luck because I've got a lot of Monday evenings off. So, yes. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item is the training room audiovisual upgrades.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mike Leiker, Ellis County IT Director. Yes, before you tonight is a proposal to upgrade 2 of our training rooms within 2 different buildings in Ellis County. One of them is the training room in the basement of the Law Enforcement Center, and which is a secure facility, so primarily used for public safety, occasionally used for other things, but it is a secure facility. The other location is the Emergency Services Building on 22nd Street. So both of those training rooms have audiovisual equipment in them, and the staff have been using them. They work well for in-person meetings like this. Where we discovered we are falling short with our audiovisual in those training locations actually became apparent to us during the pandemic when everybody was staying home and nobody was traveling and meetings started being done over Zoom and other virtual meeting type of events. Both of those locations are woefully inadequate when it comes to interacting with people on the other side of wherever through virtual meetings. So it came to our attention that we could possibly take advantage of the ARPA funds and improve these 2 locations, because even though hopefully we're seeing the downward, or maybe it's the new normal with COVID, we're learning to live with it, but virtual meetings are not going to go away. People are realizing that is a great way to take advantage of training and regional meetings and, you name it. So we put together this proposal and put it out to RFP to have those 2 training facilities upgraded. We had 3 vendors come and look at the site. 2 submitted proposals. And so for the law enforcement, I'll start with the Law Enforcement Center training room. Well, for both of them, the same 2 bidders submitted a proposal. INA Alerts out of Ellenwood and Hops Sound out of McPherson. And for the Law Enforcement Center training room, the bid from INA Alert came in as the low bid. And for the Emergency Services training room, Hops Sound actually came in for the low bid. So it kind of worked out. We can possibly utilize 2 vendors for the same type of project. So I'm asking that you consider these 2 bids for these 2 locations to upgrade the audiovisual for those 2 locations, and I'm proposing we use ARPA funds to fund those. The quote for the Law Enforcement Center basement training room was $19,071.13. And the quote from Hop Sound for the Emergency Services basement training room was $53,845.64. You might ask, why is that one so much more than the other one? The Emergency Services building or training room first is bigger than the Law Enforcement Center. It is considered a multi-use facility. It can be used for meetings. It can be used for training. The EMS director informed me that they are considering doing, I guess what I call outreach training with other agencies. I think Barton County might have been mentioned as Barton County Community College. And it is also our emergency operations center. So in the event of an emergency such as a tornado, EOC is activated and all the emergency service personnel come down there as the base of operations and kick anybody out who's in there. So there are unique requirements in that situation because, as you probably know, when they activate the EOC, they have pods of all the different agencies, and we need to make sure they all have the proper video displays from weather maps to, gosh, Darren could probably tell better than I what they use on all those, for all of those things. But that, I guess, is the long-winded way of saying why that one is more expensive than the LEC training room. So I would stand for any questions.
Well, I don't have any questions, Mike, just comments. This will be paid for out of the ARPA funds. I
That's
believe.
correct.
That's correct, so it doesn't cost the county taxpayer any money. And I think it's important, if we want to stay ahead of the game, we have to update our technology. It's just the way it is. So I'm not opposed to this issue at all. Commissioner Neal?
I see not a whole lot of, for the infrastructure on it, as far as wire, there was nothing really itemized out on there. Is that all gonna?
It is all inclusive. It is
Okay.
turnkey.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
Commissioner Joe?
I don't have any questions, just the comment that it seems like a good use of ARPA funding, especially with it not being a recurring expense down the road, so it doesn't impact future budget. So
Sure.
I'd be in support of it.
Okay, do I hear a motion for this?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the purchase order 7678 to N Alert for the LEC basement training room, audio visual upgrades. And I move to approve the purchase order 7679 to Hop Sound for emergency service basement training room, audio and visual upgrades.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. I might add one note for future consideration. We did actually ask the vendors to look at a third meeting space. It was our executive training room over here on the other side of this wall. Unfortunately, the bids came in higher than what we had budgeted, so we opted not to include that those set of quotes in this discussion today, but if funding could be found at some point in the future, I would certainly request that maybe we come back and talk about that one as well. The same type of setup. We have some audiovisual equipment in there, but it does get to be the same challenges as the other two. So if I might, kind of put a thumb attack in that one to maybe come back at a later time.
Sure. Absolutely, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is the Administrative Building Access Control and Security. Mike?
Yes, thank you. So it came to our attention recently that this city fire department, please correct me if I get this wrong, Darren, but the city fire department notified us that we are not in compliance with smoke abatement for this building, for the basement. So that kind of spurred a conversation between Darren and I to on what possible ways we could correct that. And I brought up a past conversation about security of the basement. As you probably know, there are some security issues with the basement here. To correct both of those shortfalls, we talked about having access control added to the doors in the basement here, the double doors all the way around. There's 6 sets of doors that would secure the office space from what I call the lobby areas. And it would also abate that smoke from transferring to other floors. So that's why we had we put out RFP for access control, and it would be for the 3 sets of double doors, the wooden double doors on the hallways, the back glass double doors to this room, and the single door over here. And while we're having them there, we said we should include the HR door with access control. And what that would do to satisfy the fire marshal, we would have magnetic holders installed that would hold those doors open during business hours, and then controlled through our access control system. When after office hours, those magnets would be released and the doors would close. Likewise, if the fire alarm is triggered, the magnets would release and the doors would close for safety. And that the fire marshal or the Hayes Fire Department was satisfied with that solution. So this proposal to you today is for that project. We had 2 bidders on that project, Banker Security, formerly known as FileSafe, and INA Alerts. Again, the same vendor as the audiovisual. And Banker Security was the low bidder. I might add they are also the company that installed our original access control system. So they're familiar with our system, and it would just be an addition to what they've already installed here. Again, they were a low bidder. The total bid for that was $25,360, and that would be paid out of the administrator's contingency fund. So I will stand for any questions.
Okay. I don't have any. This is a safety issue, and we have to do something to be in compliance with the city fire code. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Darren, we have plenty of money in contingency. Is that correct?
Correct. We have $140,000 remaining in contingency. Not used any of it this year, and there's no, besides this project in front of you, there's nothing else to have for that money yet.
Okay. Commissioner Joe?
Yeah, to your point, it's a health and safety issue. We need to be in compliance, and the funding is available in the administrator's contingency fund, so I say we go forward.
Commissioner Neal?
I'm also for the safety part of it. I'll support that. I guess how soon can they do this, or are we on a deadline?
I don't know if the fire department has a recommended or a deadline.
So to push on a little more information from what Mike had shared in code compliance, this was originally identified with the HVAC mechanical engineer out of Manhattan, who didn't give us some solutions. We looked at different options. This actually came in as probably the most feasible and cost. You know, we talked about adding doors, glass with openers over there to control it as well. I guess what was go back to your question again.
As far as, like, do we have a time frame? Are they setting anything?
The mechanical engineer, before they'll actually stamp on the final plans for their redoing the whole entire HVAC for this building, this has to be completed for them to sign off on those drawings, as well as before the permit is completed with Glassman Corporation for the HVAC project, this project has to be completed. So basically by the end of the year is where we're hoping for the HVAC to be completed if equipment gets here, which is still looking to be within a month. So we should be ahead of that schedule. And like Mike said, the city of Hayes we've met with their inspection department, with the fire department, with Glassman, and as well as the mechanical engineer, and everybody's given their thumbs up that this is a satisfactory code compliance based on the building being sprinklered.
And you got good relations with bankers then?
Yes,
Good.
yes, we've been customers there for
Important.
7 years, and they do say 8 to 12 weeks on their proposal. They've never had to take too much longer than what they've estimated in the past. The only thing that really is going to be holding up probably is supply chain issues, but they didn't seem to give me any indication of a problem there, so.
And Darren, thank you. Right on top of it, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, I move to approve purchase order 7680 to Banker Security for access control upgrades.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Mike, thank you.
Thank you. There is a proposal from Banker Security. Did you want me to sign that, or did you want to sign it? It's just an
I need to
accept-
sign it. I can sign it.
Okay. I will. Show you the right one.
Right here at signature.
Yes. As I was going through this afternoon, I noticed the proposal said cabling and cable installation was not included, and I called them and they said it is included. They had the wrong template, so they got that corrected. That one does say is included, so.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, can you get me a copy of that for the file? Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item is the election ballots. Bobby?
Bobby Dreiling, County Clerk Election Official. Every 22 months for for the primary and general elections, I have to destroy ballots. So those 22 months for the 2020 election has come and gone on September 3rd. And then I can also destroy the city school 2021 election ballots because those are every 6 months. So I'm just asking for a motion to appoint Greg Herbert and Lisa Ree because they have to come with two Democrat and Republican Party to watch the process of destroying ballots.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I need. Any
Commission-
questions?
Commissioners, any questions?
No, no question. I'll move to approve the clerk to destroy the election ballots from the 2021 city/school election, 2020 primary and general election per KSA 25 TAC 2708B, Bowlegs B, and to appoint Republican Greg Herbert and Democrat Lisa Reed to oversee the disposal process.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. The next agenda item is the Emergency Services Meeting Room. Darren?
Good evening, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. The next agenda item in the packet is consideration for the addition or the finishing out a space in the basement of the Emergency Services Building. This is a large portion, about 2,000 total unfinished area in the basement. It is designed and was built for the future expansion for the fire department. The proposal tonight is to renovate about 1,600 feet of that. It's all unfinished right now, bare concrete walls, no real electrical, plumbing, finishes, ceiling, tile, carpet, etc. The proposal tonight would finish that area out into basically 1,600 square room with all of those amenities for a meeting space and an office space for the Company 5 Fire Department. As the commission may know, both the fire companies in Ellis and Victoria have meeting rooms and offices, and as well as out in Shinshin, and then Company 2 out in Catherine also has an office space. So this is kind of just continuing that trend, and they've actually, when we hired the administrative assistant for the administrator's office, it actually took their only office space that they have away. So we were requesting, we put the bid out as we toured that empty space during the budget hearings to look at it, and the commission asked that we go ahead and proceed to see what we would get back for bids, put it out, listed on the website, and we got one response back from Commercial Builders, which is in your packet tonight to finish out that room. And Commercial Builders, actually, it was fortunate they did bid. They're the ones that actually built the building originally back in 2014 and 2015, so they're very familiar and have all the plans for having to redo the ductwork or add in ductwork, the sprinkler system, fire alarm, and everything. So it's $127,250 is the amount requested, and would also be used, identified to using as American Rescue Plan Act funds, ARPA funds.
Okay.
And with that, I will stand for any questions.
This was area we viewed as a Board of Commissioners, I believe, didn't we?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And it's empty space, so it's not being used.
Correct. It's, I don't know, have a good relation. If you have a lot of empty space, you start storing a lot of unused junk. So I don't want it to become that and be able to make it a good space to have another training room or meeting room for them and for something for them to call their own.
I think it's a very worthwhile project.
I will say part of this project redoes some electrical work in the basement. As the commission is aware, the health department received is about $40-some thousand grant to replace their vaccination fridges and freezers. The plan is to take their current ones and bring them over to the emergency services building, and the new ones would obviously stay at the health department, but this would run e-power to a certain spot in the basement to move those refrigerators and freezers over, so that way they'd actually have backup power. And that's per the requirements. I know Commissioner Schleier, you're well aware of that requirement, so
Oh,
this does
absolutely.
include that provision in there as well.
Okay, well, that's good.
I will say, just because it is in there, and if the commission did look at it, we did look at 3 options maybe to reduce cost. I didn't really think, just looking at reducing cost is something that maybe we shouldn't or should not do as part of it, and part of that was not doing the floor. After we did the renovation from the grants that we got for the fitness facility, we heard a lot of concerns from EMS folks because they live directly above where this room is at. There's no insulation, there's no sound barrier, so whenever you're lifting, whenever you're talking, whenever you're listening to the TV or the radio, they can hear all conversations. So that's why we went with going in and adding a finished ceiling in the floor, the carpet, so that way it would absorb the sound and not impact their 24-hour operation upstairs.
Commissioner Neal, questions or concerns?
The only concern I have, if we're moving the refrigeration over there, are we gonna run into the same problem as what Kim has out there now with the heat issue? Or are we gonna solve that right away and get that heat outside with an exhaust
So,
fan?
Part of the remodel that was part of that grant is to put a commercial-grade exhaust fan, low-zone
Okay.
exhaust fan in that building to exhaust the heat. We looked at the option of putting a mini-split unit in there, which $7,000 to $10,000 expense. When we started researching and going out for bid for the new refrigerators and the freezer, we pulled up the specs for the current models and how many BTUs an hour they put off in heat, as well as what these new units are. I apologize, I can't remember the brand names, but we're going to reduce the heat output per hour by 66% with these new fridges that we got approved for the state grant. So by reducing that heat load in that small little room, as well as putting in the exhaust fan, that should significantly, I guess, in the winter, it's nice to have all that heat output because you heat the building, but yes, that was considered on the new units.
No,
We tried to get actually, instead of 2 single fridges, we tried to get a double fridge, but because then you only had 1 compressor up top. But then to do that, we would have had to have completely disassembled the exterior and interior door frames to get it through the building. It just, it was too deep and too tall that we wouldn't be able to adjust it into the building.
and with talking to some of the volunteer firefighters, are we growing any? Are we gaining some more? Everybody I've talked to said we're gaining some more people, so I think give them an office and.
Yes, sir. In 2015, we started right around 73 volunteers. Currently, we were up to 96, and we just I got 2 more applications right here in my folder, so that'll put us up to 98. We lost a couple. Unfortunately, we're training our volunteers. They're actually getting certifications for national wildland firefighting. We just sent one. He got a job. Is working on fires out in Northern California on a federal fire crew. And then we lost another one on a temporary assignment, currently up in working in the national park in Yellowstone, Wyoming. So unfortunately, we lose a couple to that. We are a college town, so we have a couple that are here for a few. But yes, we are growing. And we're actually almost running out of locker space in Hayes because of not enough room to store protected gear.
Thank you.
Commissioner Joe, any questions, concerns?
No, I think it's needed, it's in the appropriate location,
Mhm.
and it fills a need that a good chunk of the county fire doesn't have. I would suggest, though, that if they can hear people working out below them, they should just come downstairs and lift as well. But anyway, that's all I have.
If we enforce that, I'd have to do that too.
Oh, never mind then, never mind.
Okay, so I guess award the bids then. We don't
Yes,
need
sir,
a-
and I apologize that I did not add this motion language. There's 2 agenda items that I copied and pasted and did not.
Do we
correct the-
need a motion?
Yes, sir. The motion would include, add a motion to approve PO number 7681 to commercial builders to renovate the basement of the emergency services building.
7861?
Yes, sir. 7681.
7681. Okay. Commercial builders. I'll make a motion to approve purchase order number 7681 to commercial building to complete the unused space in the basement of the emergency services building.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0. Okay. A resolution correction, Darren.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Back on August, in mid-August, I had the commission put together, or we had a resolution put together for the commission to approve, allowing the county councilor to move forward with tax foreclosure. And I incorrectly added the resolution 22-09, which was used for the land purchase up north of town. So this is just an update to approve the correct resolution number 22-10, allowing the same information previous for the county councilor to proceed.
Okay. Commissioners, is there any discussion on this? Okay, is there a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve Resolution 22-10, allowing the county councilor to file the delinquent real estate tax with the Ellis County District Court.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Bobby, would you email me a copy of that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is the administration building HVAC change orders. Darren?
As the commission is aware, we are proceeding with the remodel of the heating, ventilation, air conditioning unit here at the administrative building. At the time of the bid, we knew that there's going to be 2 issues for sure that we were going to have to address, which was why we needed the contingency as part of the initial bid. The first item was the fresh air ventilation within the building, which we had approved a change order several months ago to take care of that issue. The second piece was to do more information as to the atrium area on the main floor, basically the area directly above us. Throughout the remodels, when the county originally bought this building, and Adams Brown on the second floor has closed off the stairway, and then through our remodels have added glass doors and separated that whole entire atrium area upstairs. There is 0 ductwork to circulate any air, and there is no HVAC unit to either to temperate that area to heat or cool it. So that was the other piece to be able to get into and to look at. Once the contractor was up in the second story in the attic space, they tried to identify different ductwork, plumbing, piping, electrical access as to where and to what would all need to be done to add those units to that atrium area. So one of the change orders, the bigger change order for tonight, is the atrium, add 2 6-ton HVAC units to the roof to heat and cool that atrium area. And I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but it is $48,488. The second change, well, I guess that's the second change order I have listed. The third one is, as the commission is aware, we're trying to also incorporate it within this project, the future expansion to put this entire building on emergency power. And we've had to look at load testing the building and previous usage and estimate what the future usage is going to be as we are currently replacing the HVAC unit and Buildings and Grounds are replacing all the light fixtures, the ballast, to switch everything over to LED within the building, so the energy consumption will go down. But we're still trying to estimate the proper size generator, which we've come to believe we're going to spec out a 450 kilowatt generator. So that determined what size of conduit would have to be ran underneath the pad that's being built outside, as well as the pad size for the generator to sit on within that fenced-in area. So once now we've determined that, that's why this change order for the conduit needs to change for the amount and the size for that. The third change order is when we were working down here, and I mentioned, I can't remember to one of the commissioners, if the commission would like after the meeting, I can open the door and show you all the progress that's being made back there. But we do have one gas-fired water heater that's down there. Sorry, there's a grass fire in the county. There's a 50 or 70 gallon hot water heater, and it is gas powered, and we're proposing with this change order to switch it over to the electric with a recirc pump that's already installed, so that way we can cap off all the flues and not have the excess flues and unneeded ventilation that's down there in that room as well. So those are the three change orders, should be the final change orders for the project.
That'd be good.
And all those fit within the amount of contingency, and we'll still have contingency left if the commission decides, once we get to the point of installing the condenser outside and the generator, we'll probably bring back to the commission what you would like to see is some type of fenced-in area around it. Whether it's chain link or something that looks a little bit more presentable and proper for
Sure.
our front entrance of our facility.
Commissioner Joe, any questions, concerns?
No, I mean, that's what a contingency fund is for, and when you have projects like this, and this falls well within the limits of it, so
Sure.
I'd be fine with it.
Commissioner Neal?
What's the reasoning to go an electric water heater? That's just adding to our generator having to go up higher as far as KW. Is there a reason that they went electric instead of gas?
Yes, sir. And I was going to talk to Greg, and we started talking, our buildings and grounds technician. It was mainly for the exhaust flue that's back there. To be able to remove that from in there requires us per code to have some other types of air dampeners and everything that's in that room back there. I can follow up with that and give you a more specific as to why we're getting rid. The more specifics as to the flue, that's kind of speaking outside my comfort zone, so I'd hate to say
You're
something
thinking
that's
it's
not.
anywhere from 70 to 100 gallon then, water heater?
Well, we actually are going to reduce the size because the building, in regards to what all is actually being used and needed for hot water, it's going to be smaller, same size or smaller. I believe it was a little bit smaller because the only thing that's using or needing hot water is just the sinks.
Okay.
You know, there's no dishwashers or wash machines or anything like that. So they feel that the electric heater was a better option because we're not having that usage.
Okay.
But I will follow up with you on that. I can send the commission an email as to what the specifics for those flues back there are.
Okay. Commissioners, does someone want to make a motion regarding this?
Sure. I move to approve the approval of the 3 change orders for a water heater, atrium units, and conduit.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Okay, the Kansas Association of County Voting Delegates. Darren?
As the commission is aware, the Kansas Association of Counties Conference is coming up in mid-September, or October, I apologize. And at this point, Commissioner Younger is going as part of our current county commission to that meeting. And we've already approved the K8, or the K-Work and the K-Camp voting delegates, which were both Mr. Younger. And this is now the KAC, the actual conference and associations voting delegate. So it'd be nice if they'd send us all 3 of them at once so we can get them all 3 done at once. But they all came a couple weeks apart. So this is just the the approval, I'm guessing, to have Mr. Younger be the voting delegate for KAC.
I think Mr. Junker could do a good job there.
Thank you.
Sounds like he's going to have some practice at this, being a delegate, so there we go.
Thanks, Commissioner Joe.
Okay. County Administrator report, Darren.
One quick thing, as the commission is aware, back in April when we took the county road tour, we viewed the area of East 13th Street, basically out by the current Hayes High School out east to where it intersects with Commerce Parkway. At that point, it was unknown if the school bond was going to pass. Since then, the school bond did pass, so that way now we know the traffic on that road is going to be significantly increased. And that road basically east of either Wheatland or Harvest, it narrows down from a 3-lane down to 2-lane with no center turn lane, very steep ditches and everything. We looked at that process, or looked at that as a potential project in the future, and also working with the city of Hayes and the school district. Since that time, our staff has actually met with 489 district staff and the city staff, and gratefully, the city is taking lead on applying for a grant to resurface that and widen that road all the way out from Wheatland out to Commerce Parkway. And basically, their grant proposal is going from 2 to 3 lanes with that center turn lane, and then an offset project for them would be to add the bike lane and extend their walking path out that way as well, which wouldn't be part of our portion. But the project is about $2 to $2.5 million, depending on cost estimates, and trying to get about $1.2 million grant from KDOT, and the cost share split that we would have, if all the estimates stayed true, would be about $500,000, which is a little bit less than what we actually put into the capital plan for 2023. So it's all obviously contingent on the grant, but the city would like a letter of support, which I drafted, and I don't know if the commission had time to read that late this afternoon, but I did send it to you for review, and just asked if the commission is supportive of that letter, I could pass it around and have it signed, and file a copy with the clerk, and I can get the signed copy to the city of Hayes to apply for that KDOT cost share grant.
I think it's good to help with our city partners on this issue. Commissioner Joe?
Yep, I'll happily sign it.
Commissioner Neal?
I will definitely support that. That's part of the safety of it, because the traffic flow is going to increase tremendous there.
Absolutely.
I will say, I'm a little jealous. It's not really off topic. I'll let Mr. Jeter pass that around, but yesterday I spent several hours out in Junction City at their new facility on the west end of their town, their new 6A school. Magnificent, huge school, all brand new facilities, football field complex. It looked pretty impressive. If we can do anything close to that, it's our community, the school district, the high school is going to benefit greatly from it. It was a nice facility. But other than that, that's all I got.
Okay. County Commissioner reports. Commissioner Joe?
Nope.
Okay. Commissioner Neal?
I was pretty boring. I just, I did go to one city meeting, and then today I attended Grow Hayes. And I'd like to thank all our volunteers again. In the AP report, I believe there was like 95 different things, so Ellis County and our community should feel fortunate to have that kind of volunteers. So that's all I have.
Okay. And I have no report. And I will make a motion. We go into executive session for 15 minutes for attorney-client privilege regarding potential litigation. Included would be Brendan. I don't think Brendan's here.
We got a call by phone.
Oh, okay. Bill Jeter, Darren Myers, and the board.
I'll
Is there a
second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
you.